Okay, so it is 7 o'clock. So I would like to call to order this April 19th, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item of business we have is the Student Council report. Sarah?
Good evening. This week we will have our induction ceremonies for the National Honor Society, the Spanish, French, and Italian Honor Societies, and the Arts Honor Society. Ceremonies for the English, Math, and Science Honor Societies will happen over the next month. The annual K-12 Festival of Arts will take place on April 21st from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Come support our artists as they exhibit wonderful works of art created in the SCSD K-12 art programs. The Somers Student Council, the high school, is hosting a Battle of the Bands this April 22nd at 7 o'clock in the auditorium. Along with that, Broadway in Concert is hosted by the SHS Musical Company, which is taking place April 26th. The class of 2025 is having a kickball tournament open to all of the high school on April 29th, and the high school yearbook is completed and you can order yours online. The Somers Holocaust Memorial Commission is pleased to resume its annual Evening of Remembrance. This year the ceremony will be held at Somers High School on April 28th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Along with that, the Somers Partners in Prevention Prescription Drug Take Back the Day is April 30th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Somers Police Department. There are many senior events happening. The Six Flags New England trip is on May 13th. Senior convocations on June 2nd at 6 o'clock. Senior Sport Awards on June 9th at 6 p.m. And then prom is at the Green Tree Country Club on June 10th, with prom tickets going on sale in early May. Graduation rehearsal will be on June 21st at 9 a.m., and the senior graduation ceremony will be on June 22nd at 5 p.m. And that is all.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sarah, for reminding us of all the outdoor activities and things that are going to get back to our normal stuff in the spring. So thank you. Take care.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, next up is public comments. I don't think we have any public comment for agenda items right now. Okay, so we move on to the central office report.
So I'll go ahead and get us started. And I think Chris is ready to go live. So tonight we'll go ahead through our budget summaries we've been working through, obviously, back at Thanksgiving time, or before that we were working on. So kind of this culminating to this evening. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Chris. And so thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much. So jump right into it. We're going to, again, just go over the budget development process and then have a nice slide on the 22-23 proposed budget, the use of appropriated reserves and fund balance that we've historically had for balancing the budget, and then a slide on the 22-23 contingent budget. And then the last part of the presentation tonight will be on the tax certiorari review, which then feeds into the capital reserve fund proposition that we'll be asking the voters to vote on in May. Just from a budget development standpoint, it's hard to believe that we're in April here and going to be adopting the budget tonight. And then, again, ultimately leading to a public budget vote and trustee election on May 17th. So the slide is very similar to the slide that was presented at the last presentation. Did make a couple of adjustments based on some feedback that I received last presentation. And then we also, we did receive a slight increase in state aid as the legislature approved the budget about a week and a half ago. That total amount was around $25,000. So as we discussed at the last board meeting, we reduced the reliance on reserves to balance the budget. So the budget remained the same from the last one. We just reduced the reliance on reserves and then increased the state aid that we'd be using. Again, looking at this slide, the tax levy number that we are putting out for next year is a 2% increase to the levy. And you see the numbers with the estimated tax rate that is on there as well.
And you have noted there that the allowable, 2% isn't a magic number here, but the allowable
Yeah,
levy was calculated at 3.92% for a normal vote.
Yeah, so the maximum tax levy that we, with a simple majority
Yeah.
approval, would be at 3.92%. And again, we're going with the 2% increase. Now, this slide ties into the previous one that just shows the historical use of appropriated reserves and fund balance. Next year, we're projecting $528,555. And you see, going back a few years, it was as low as $25,000, and just a couple years ago, it was up a little over $1.1 million. And if we went back a little further, you'd see that it was as high as somewhere around $2 million.
It's definitely helpful having those reserves to help keep the budget more level,
Absolutely.
having that in place.
This slide shows if the budget is not approved by the voters. This would be a contingent budget. We have three options. We can resubmit the same budget for another vote in June. We can revise the budget and submit that budget for a vote in June, or the board can go directly to a contingent budget, and that tax levy increase would be $0 from the previous year. So that would be a $1.6 million that then we'd have to reduce the budget by in order to comply with the $0 increase in the tax levy. And just as we've shown in previous presentations as well, just our tax certiorari reserve that we have. A couple years ago with COVID, when COVID hit, we did have some savings in various areas throughout the budget, and we were able to put some additional dollars into this reserve. So now we're up around 6.7 million. You can see the claims that are pending is up over 22 million. And as we've talked about in the past, there's a couple of large tax certiorari's that are making up the majority of that 22 million. Again, we don't have a crystal ball on when these things will be settled. A lot of it was backlogged because of COVID, and the courts were backed up. So we're still, and again, we're still putting away money in case it's needed. And if these settlements come in higher than the amount that we currently have, then we have to explore other options in order to refund the money back to the taxpayer.
Chris, you said putting away money for it. We're not putting any more money into it. We're just maintaining this one as is, right? So there's zero contributions here.
We'll see where we end up this year, and then we'll make a decision as we do each year on, usually we have a surplus of, somewhere between 1.5% and 2%. And then we look to put that in various reserves, whether it's ERS reserve, TRS now, tax cert, or depending on how the vote goes with the capital reserve fund that we're asking the voters to vote on in May.
Because if that doesn't get settled, the claims pending keeps increasing, correct?
The claims pending will continue to increase each year that those claims do not get settled. Yes, that's correct.
We had talked a little bit earlier in the fall as we were going through this process. At what point in time do we say we've saved as much as we possibly can to put towards here, because we do have other work that needs to be accomplished, be it if we are able to establish this newest capital reserve account to start filling those dollars for those necessary improvements to our capital grounds area and our different sports and things like that. So at some point in time, if again it doesn't settle, it's like we really need to have that conversation. That's how much we can do. Basically, if there's a delta between those two spots of what we have and what we owe, the board here, probably about 4 or 5 years before I came on board, had a large tax certiorari. At that point in time, they had some available. They paid out what they had in reserves, and then they went and bonded the rest at the board table. Mm-hmm. And so that's basically the other mechanism to put that in place. And so, near as I can tell, this is the largest amount of tax certiorari reserves we've ever had in the district. Mm-hmm. And in any normal experience, as Chris has said before, you're looking maybe at anywhere between 10 to 20% is your typical settling number. But, with COVID, they kind of removed that prior thinking before in some of these elements. So that number historically has been just fine for us to be able to say, oh, we feel confident. But right now, we're just trying to figure that out. So if that comes to fruition, we have some fund balance in the air, we'll come to the board and say, now let's talk about where we want to put those funds. Do we want to add more to here, or do we want to start filling that new capital reserve account?
Ray, what if you can safely say after settling these claims, assuming they settle, and you have a lot more money in that account than you otherwise would, and you know that down the road you're going to go back to historical levels of settlement, can you move that money to other funds, other line items on the budget, or does it have to stay in there, in the tax certiorari?
So we can move those funds, it just has to happen at a budget process time like this. So if next year we said, oh, that's enough, we're gonna drop that down to 5 million, we're gonna move that 1.7 over to another location in a reserve area, then it's voted on by the public to kind of have that move take place.
Okay. But if we don't have the funds in that reserve account, and then this settles for $6,000 or $5,000, and we don't have the money set aside, that would be. Million.
That would be great.
I wish it was 1,000. I wish it was 1,000.
For a second.
I was looking without the last comma. Yeah, no.
Exactly.
Yes. It would have a huge impact on our budget. Or adding a bond, there's a whole bunch that adds into that, and then we're talking interest and, yeah.
Right, that's where you're trying to avoid that at all cost. Again, that's the piece with the capital reserve account that we've done in the past before too, like for the safety security project and those things, last $5 million project. We avoided all the interest on that because it was a savings account. So it's just a matter of at what point in time do we say, okay, that's about as big as we can get, and now redirecting any future positive gains to some of these needs. And again, the solution that the district has before, others, numerous districts don't keep the tax certiorari account very large. When it becomes an issue, then they just bond it and then they just move forward. That's just part of their operating procedure.
Yeah, so Ray, what feels like a really difficult situation for the district is that we're ultimately going to be responsible for this wherever the result comes, but it's being negotiated by our town. So we are not necessarily negotiating this or having the conversations,
Correct.
but our town is. And so we're sort of like a second step. So communicating with the rest of the community to let them know that this is not that the board is not being responsible with funds or not responding to grievances that folks are filing. This is at the town level, yeah, and that the town is dealing with the state, right? And so the holdup is really on the legislation in the state. A couple months ago or weeks ago, I don't remember when we met, you had said that there was some movement and you hoped to have some information in the next couple of weeks. And I know we don't have a crystal ball, but do we have any indication of any conversations or any ongoing, something that we could share with the community so they feel as if we're not waiting but trying to do what we can?
Yeah, unfortunately, we can only wait. There has been some conversations between the taxpayer and the town, and the town has always kept us involved in those, kept us apprised of that information, but there's still we don't know when that is going to be settled. So there's no indication if that's going to be settled next month or a year from now.
But for the sake of the taxpayers that are going to be watching this and hopefully looking into the budget, just so that they should understand that it's not coming from the school board or the district, that there's nothing that we're waiting on.
We're not holding anything up here.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that that's clear.
And it's not just the school district that it's going to impact. I imagine the town must have a reserve fund too, because this is going to impact
So
their
it
budget as
it
well.
does impact the town
Although
as well.
the school budget is bigger, is
Right.
a larger percentage of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, I have a question that on this reserve fund, how much latitude we have in terms of earning interest? Particularly, I'm thinking about the Fed's going to increase interest rate very soon, and it makes difference if you have a 1%, 2%, or return on these funds. Do we have that latitude to make interest on these reserve fund?
The district is limited to what we can invest in. We keep a large portion of our money in an investment account that earns a little bit of a higher interest rate than, say, our standard.
What kind of latitude we have at this point?
As far as,
Yeah,
we
the
can invest this money into certain funds that we're allowed to invest in, and we do that. We put, not just.
Require boards, say, give you, permission to do that, or you can do that on your own in the sense as a financial manager?
Yeah, so we, at the reorg meeting, the board authorizes us to deposit money into certain accounts, and that
Okay.
has always been done.
So perhaps, I would just suggest we do a little study.
Sure.
I mean, this is really opportune time. I think in May, Fed's going to probably raise 50 points, right? And some people even say we'll have 6 races in this year. So that could be very significant. We know these statutory stuff can delay, 6 months, a year. The longer they delay, perhaps better for us in that sense.
And we certainly have seen rates begin to rise,
Right,
especially in our investment account that we have. And like I said, we don't just put our tax tertiary money in there. We also have other money
True.
in there to generate as much interest as we can.
Those are a fairly limited amount. The New York State identifies that you can and choose to invest in.
Yeah, and that's why I say we
It's a
need
very short list, and so
I
we can
wanna
certainly
know
bring that
what's your
forth. But
latitude
it's a pretty short list, and so, but what we're seeing on the other side is our interest rates are going up for our lease purchase on our technology equipment. So, if we're making a little bit more on one side, but then we're paying on the other side, but we can certainly bring forth that at the end of the year or speak a little bit more when that's established for the 22-23 school year, that kind of short list, so.
So not all in on Bitcoin, right?
We are not investing in Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Hey, Chris, really quick question on this. What's the annualized liability of this number? So going forward, what's the max hit to the tax levy that we can lose?
You're with the tax tertiaries?
Yep.
So, I mean, each year that these claims aren't settled, we'll add another potential couple million dollars.
So it's $2 million,
I'd say at least.
or at least that, okay.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that it's 20 to 30%, so it's anywhere between 400 to 600,000 annualized to the actual budget. If it's, even when this gets settled, we'll lose in revenue.
No, once the tax, let's just pretend the tax tertiary gets settled tomorrow.
Yep.
That now, for that taxpayer, we're going to refund them X amount of dollars. We're never going to generate that money that we just had to refund them. So that money is just
No,
back.
I get that, but we
Okay.
also, we're
Depending
not
on the settlement
receiving
agreement,
we have to actually increase more. We're not receiving 400 to 600,000 in annualized revenue from them. We're going to lose
We
Which
don't.
then
No,
Gets
the
distributed.
rest of the
Distributed
community
throughout
will
the
pay
community.
the
throughout the
difference.
community. Yeah, so
It's like I
that's-
forgot
everyone's
my
taxes are going to go
my
up on
wallet
that,
for
yeah.
dinner, and everybody
Yeah.
else is going to pick up the tab for me. That's kind of what it is.
That's what I say. Everyone else's taxes are going to go up on stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yes.
And does that impact our tax levy? I guess the ability to increase the budget if we had to.
No, because that's
No.
just
It
the
doesn't
That's
impact our
separate.
tax
redistribution
levy.
of.
Redistribution.
Yeah.
Got it.
It would affect the tax
Rate.
rate, not the tax levy.
No,
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
And
And then this just brings us to the other proposition that voters will be voting on next month. This is to establish the Capital Reserve Fund, which we have set at a limit of $10 million with a probable term of 10 years. And then on this next slide, again, as Dr. Blanche mentioned earlier, this is a savings account that is funded through surplus funds at year end. And some of the items that we are looking at, the work that we're looking at doing with this capital reserve fund would be athletic upgrades, specifically to have some tennis courts on campus, and upgrades to our softball and baseball facilities. Then there's also classroom renovations, in particular the high school, which still has some original classrooms that we'd like to get at and bring up to this century. And some district-wide paving that has been identified.
You're saying that bad. Jeez. True, but
okay.
sometimes the truth stinks. I got it.
Why,
And then some district-wide paving that's been identified in our 5-year capital plan, which we don't think we'd be able to do all of it within this capital reserve fund if we were able to fund it fully.
Got it, it's a lot.
But at least it would help us put a dent in it. And then when we look to go out for the next bond project, which we'd probably be asking the voters to vote on in 3 years from now, we would have a little less amount that we'd have to borrow to complete some of those projects that we'd be looking to complete.
and just to be clear, this is not additional $10 million. This is surplus from what we are not using in our budget. So we're not going out and asking the community to vote to increase by $10 million.
Correct.
It is Just
So-
making that
And it-
clear for anybody who's
yeah.
listening at home, that we're not asking for additional 10 million.
And it won't automatically have $10 million in it this year. It
will-
will
it will
have.
not have
it
$10
could
million
have
in it this
a couple
year.
Unless you
$100,000
invest
it
in
might
Dogecoin.
start with,
So,
depending on what the surplus is on the budget.
right, and then that goes, that goes back to how much we want to continue to put into tax tertiary reserve. We
Right.
have to make a decision on where we want to allocate some of those funds at year end.
Okay, and then also for the spending in terms of the priorities and things, when we do decide to spend this money, we have to vote again in
Correct.
order to approve taking
Yeah.
the money out and using it for a particular purpose.
So it'll be at least a couple years before we can hopefully put some enough money in there to get at some of these projects that we'd like to have funded through
Are they
this.
listed in order of what you think the priority would be, or just,
So right now, I would say that they're the reverse alphabetical order. So the priority there, it's is safety for all three of those facilities. So we can't do too much to tennis because it's not our court. So once we're ready to bring it on site, then it's basically a brand new facility. Softball, baseball are
if I could just
safety
go back to that,
plans.
so you're saying because the courts that they're using right now really are not safe according to the standards for high school?
I would say that for our high school, they're certainly meet the town needs, and they've always been kind to let us use those courts, but the biggest piece is if there's any dew or condensation on there, they become really unplayable very quick for tennis sports. So we can't put any investments over there, so once it comes on board here, we can then do the whole project.
Okay.
Softball, baseball, number one is, again, priority of safety of playing surfaces. This year, we've been hit in a lot, more than typical, with this rain. We got another inch last night, so our fields looked pretty good, ready to go for a game last night. And then we were hoping, and we got the rain, so we're hoping to get a game in tomorrow. So just the grass going back and forth is causing some challenges versus looking at synthetic surface. We anticipate, just for softball and baseball, because if you may recall, the board was looking at doing this 2 years ago, putting this same question basically on the ballot for the same purpose, but that's when COVID hit on March 13th. And it was like, well, we're not going to put it out there at that point in time. So we're kind of 2 years in the rear already behind where we had hoped to have been. And so the ability for us to look at these areas of the improvement from a safety standpoint is the number one piece. So we believe we'll probably have to do some transfer of dollars here at the end of the year to jumpstart on the softball and the baseball fields, because we know we're still a couple years out. So we need to have a commercial kind of group come on board, bring in a lot more soil than we were able to typically do in, go ahead and grade that down a little bit farther on the weekend, have the heavy machinery so we can get through. And from a safety perspective, for the next 2 years, there won't be any additional enhancements, but it'll be a safe playing surface for the kids.
Okay.
So and hardware, it's all needed. So as far as the safety is the number one piece that we've got identified there. And when we did the subcommittee meetings with our community members and we had our coaches and we had conversation with these groups, safety was the number one piece, just
Right.
safe playing surface. So
Okay, and then with the tennis, I seem to recall, I think early on when I had come on the board, there had been conversations with the town about the tennis courts and if there might be improvements there, and that, didn't, or if they were gonna build new ones, and I guess if the
think that's
town,
the
'cause then
part-
if the town
Yeah.
had improved facilities, we wouldn't need to be putting them on campus, but
don't
it
think
helps
that's
meet the
going
need.
to necessarily happen. I think that they're also looking at some relocation of those, and so even if those get relocated, it's going to take time. So then we'd be flat out of courts as well
Right.
too. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So this ensures that we have these to use, and not just for the tennis teams, but for all students to be able to learn the life skill of tennis.
Yes.
Okay.
Our physical education program is definitely very jazzed about the ability for us to bring tennis for all students at the high school. Again, if it's as a
Great.
fall experience or a spring experience as well. So
Then this last slide is just the public budget hearing will be 2 weeks from today. And then the budget vote and trustee election on May 17th. And that'll be in the gym here at the middle school. And then you could see that the terms of 3 school board members expire this year. And there are 3 open seats, and the candidates that are running are listed below.
And if anybody's interested in looking at the budget documents, they're all on the website, on the school district website, including all of the presentations.
Okay.
That's it.
Any other questions on the budget? All right, thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
So our next item is a discussion of the Code of Conduct policy changes.
So I'll go ahead and just do just a brief update. This was just a kind of follow up where we had been before a little bit, but we have the Code of Conduct we have coming out of our seat group that, as we talked a little bit at the last meeting, where that's kind of now come back online with the different subcommittees underneath there. And this particular subcommittee that's working there looks at our operational procedures and practices. They've kind of taken a deep dive on the Code of Conduct. So Kevin Guidotti will be here at our next meeting in June to talk a little bit more in detail. We've had, I think there's a seat committee that took place just before break on this particular topic. I think there's another one coming up later in this week. And then we have the next Board of Ed Policy Committee meeting that will spend another little bit of time diving deeper into the changes to the Code of Conduct. And then at our meeting in June, we'll ask the collective board to kind of look at our first read of that. We'll hold our kind of public hearing at that point in time, and then come back at the end of June for the second read of this work. And some of the highlights that I know Kevin has shared with me and a little bit with the seat meeting are things like just some of the language change that he talked to me a little bit about. I want to make sure I've got it right, but changing from Code of Conduct to Code of Conduct, Community and Support. So just really some language changes in there carrying through that work. And then the idea about just as much inclusive language as possible. Even I think the students were looking at like the dress code, and I think the dress code typically would have kind of fairly gender-specific types of kind of language in there. Now looking at things like it does dressed as appropriate dress does not interfere with the educational process. So could be one way, you know, thing the other, doesn't matter gender, it's just like it can't interfere with the educational process. So they've spent some time looking at that kind of component. Even when most often we look at the current area, it's like there's an infraction, what's the discipline related to it? And so just again, some language change in there. What are the behavior consequences, the violations, and then what are reparations that can be made inside of there? So it's more than just, hey, what's the discipline? Here's the components that fall inside of there. We also will see a more detailed and clarified piece of kind of level of behavior and infraction chart. And so here's this infraction. So think about who gets involved and when do they get involved. And is it classroom level? Is it, you know, basically team level? Is it building level with building level support from mental health team, or maybe a school rights officer, or when does it get involved in the district? So, you know, very clear steps and procedures of who is involved and when they're involved. And so with that part, again, a key part inside of there is the language change of having it be about community and connections with our students, not necessarily just a code of conduct. Mm-hmm. So it's about carrying connections and things in there too. So, you know, I know we had a brief update with the last policy committee with this conversation with Kevin. We'll spend more time diving into the next iterations. He closes the last meetings with the seat subcommittee on some of this work, and then we'll bring it forth to the board after the committee looks at it as well too. So,
I thought it was pretty exciting seeing some of the changes that were in process there. The visuals, the organization.
Yes.
It was so much easier to follow.
Yes, and yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Yes, it is intended to be much more easier to consume by whomever's looking at it and things. So that's a key part. So I appreciate Kevin and the students and the parents that had volunteered as we started this work even last year, and then kind of had a mid-season froze period, and then now they're back online. So with a vengeance. So I'm glad we're back in there. So, but they'll be bringing that forthcoming.
All right, any questions on that? Okay, so now we are in acceptance of the warrants report, statements of revenue, treasurer's report, and budget status report. And then approval of meeting minutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, having received copies of minutes of the meetings of March 15th, 2022 and April 5th, 2022, hereby approves the same.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay. Next board action is a memorandum of agreement, the Juul agreement. It does not have anything to do with vaping. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, when I first saw the
didn't
dual
think-
term, I was like, wait, what is this? Nothing to do with
Sorry.
that. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Somers Central School District hereby approves the memorandum of agreement between the district, the Somers Faculty Association, and employee number 2794, dated April 19th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay. Next item is our personnel consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, hereby approves the attached personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Ray, just a
Yeah.
quick thing. One thing I noticed on this is
Go ahead.
a bunch of people seemingly resigning mid-year or like toward the end of the year. Is that for each individual circumstance, or is there an overriding reason for that?
I would say it's just each individual circumstances. Some have been unfortunate life circumstances, others have been family situations and things. So each one of those is definitely a different piece for sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mary.
Yeah, no, can you speak to the new library media specialist at the middle school? Like, what's changing, what's happening that people can see?
So actually Megan O'Connor's here tonight, and so I wanted to congratulate Megan here for that. So we have, Megan's been actually here with us since the beginning of the year, and so she's been going through the process for her identification certification through the state of New York, and then basically that kind of has finally come. And so now we're able to go ahead and make that official this evening. And so we had a media specialist that was in the campus before that went back into the classroom, and then we started the school year with a new media specialist. And then Megan now has been here for the year and has been fulfilling that role and just was able to get her official permanent specialist piece probationary
Not an
done.
additional.
No,
it's
to be-
It's a formalization.
It's a formalization
Yep.
of.
Yep, so she's got that
Question.
probationary piece and stuff.
Welcome.
So,
Congratulations.
Yep. So you may remember Joe Benedetto was here, and so he's back in the classroom proper, starting this fall, and then that's when we were able to have Megan join the team, and then working through, as we've talked before, everybody's behind on getting this paperwork things done, but we finally got it done. So, yeah, so welcome aboard, Megan.
Congrats, welcome aboard. All right, any other discussion for the personnel agenda? Okay.
Are we
so-
looking to, actually, I have a question. Are we looking to find a replacement for the art teacher in the interim? I know that we have a leave.
Right, so Mr. Gibbon will be working that through with his team here to go ahead and find a long-term substitute for that period of time.
Okay, so we'll look for that in the next couple of
We
months,
would hope
maybe?
to find that at the next one, yes.
Amazing.
Yep,
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, personnel agenda is adopted. All right, next up is the CSE and Cpsc meeting recommendations. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, having received copies of recommendations of the meetings as listed on the attached memo, hereby approves the same.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay. The business consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, hereby approves the attached business agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I want to know about that ventilate, no.
Yeah.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay. And next we move on to adoption of the 2022-23 Budget Property Tax Report Card. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education of the Somers Central School District does hereby adopt the Property Tax Report Card and the budget for the 2022-23 school year in the amount of $100,982,930, and be it resolved, further resolved, that the date for the public vote on said 2022-23 Somers Central School District budget be set as May 17th, 2022, from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. at Somers Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? We've talked that one through. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Okay. Next is the appointment of election workers. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education of the Somers Central School District does hereby approve the appointment of chairperson, inspectors, and election workers for the annual meeting and election on May 17th, 2022, as per the attachment.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
This was the increased cost to our budget this year that we saw, the significant increase in the election, right?
Yeah. Well, we have a new chairperson, so maybe.
Right. Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yes.
Is that common? I'm just seeing that right now.
What do you mean? Sorry.
What the?
Well, so there was a line item in our budget this year that was different than I had seen previously. It was like a significant jump for the election, and I was assuming it was part of the formalization. No?
Machines.
The machines.
Related
Yeah.
to machines?
Oh, bold,
Yeah.
yeah.
Moving to a digital interface.
Yeah,
Right.
different machines.
Okay, yeah.
It's not for Heidi Slush Fund. don't worry.
No, I was actually looking at this list of individuals, thinking if maybe it was hiring them.
Oh, yeah, no, because we've always had,
so.
I think, always had the chairperson and election
Thank you.
Yeah, right.
workers.
The list has normally been much, much longer, but with this new system, we need less people, which is a good thing.
Was
and-
that an upfront, Nancy? Was that an upfront cost that over time will cost less, or we'll keep that forever and always?
We'll keep that for always.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, anything else on this one? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay. And athletic mergers for 2022-23. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education for the Somers Central School District does hereby approve the team mergers listed below for the 2022-23 season as per the merger applications. And this involves girls varsity swim with Somers and Yorktown, boys varsity swim with Somers and Yorktown, girls varsity gymnastics with all the schools that are listed there, a bunch. Varsity modified ice hockey with Somers, Brewster, North Salem, Yorktown. Varsity ski with Somers and John Jay Cross River, and varsity modified wrestling with Somers and North Salem.
Ray, is it true that the swim is going to be at your pool at your house? Or?
We put it on the third floor of the high school.
That's part of the $10 million, right?
Wait, yeah, can we add that into the
Gates not getting started now.
physical plan?
Joe started it.
Next, first tennis courts, then a pool. Okay.
Oh, so moved, right? We have to.
Second.
Yes. Okay. Before we go anywhere else, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Did you?
Abstained? Okay.
Yes, yes,
Everybody there?
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I thought it was unusual.
Should we
Next up is the Boces administrative budget. Whereas the Board of Cooperative Educational Services of Putnam, Northern Westchester County, thereafter Boces, has proposed its tentative administrative budget for the 2022-23 school year. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Boces tentative administrative budget for the 2022-23 school year in the amount of $10,440,404 be and hereby is approved by the board.
So
So
moved.
move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay. And the establishment of the Boces Equipment Reserve Fund. Whereas the Board of Education of the Putnam, Northern Westchester Board of Cooperative Educational Services has determined that it would be in the best interest of the Putnam, Northern Westchester Boces and its component school districts to establish a career and technical education programs equipment reserve fund, the purpose of which is to support the replacement and purchase of advanced technology equipment used in the career and technical education instructional programs. Whereas the law requires the approval for the creation of the CTE Equipment Reserve by a majority of the boards of education of the Putnam, Northern Westchester, Boces component school districts. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Ed of the Somers School District hereby approves the establishment of said reserve fund for Putnam, Northern Westchester, Boces in accordance with the requirements of education law and regulations of Commissioner of Education, and be it further resolved that this resolution should take effect immediately, and the district clerk is directed to transmit a certified copy of this resolution to the Boces District Superintendent. So seeing them using a reserve fund similar to what we're talking about doing here.
Do we know what equipment they're talking about?
Can we move this? So moved?
Oh, yeah, so
So moved. That was so moving.
Second.
Second.
Okay, now discussion.
Okay. My question is, what equipment is involved here?
Yeah, it wasn't very clear in that attachment. There's it just says CTE equipment, but it doesn't really say what it is.
So from the career technical education piece, I believe that, I think that's some of their CNC routering type pieces and some of the technology that goes along with that. If you may recall, also it's just some of their facility improvements there. It's probably been 7 years now ago that Boces came and they presented kind of some of the significant challenges with their physical plants. And so this is their perspective and say, let's not get that to that spot again. So it's kind of those replacements that we would do on an annual basis, but we would bring forward. So, but now they have to do some of that through this structuring. If you again remember, they came here, they showed a leaking roofs and all that kind of stuff. So this is their intent to get ahead of that piece, so it doesn't happen again. So
Yeah, so as, it sounds like as they need to update their career education instructional equipment.
and again, it's advanced technology needs. I think that some of their CNC routers and things like that, and some of the 3D printers and such, which especially if they're larger equipment, and even some of their other career technical education also includes, I think they have some woodworking and some electrical work as well. So I don't know if they're talking about lathes and things like that. Those are pretty expensive pieces of equipment, but otherwise that they're going to be way behind the technology times of what these children now are going out into a career field like this and the devices they need to use. So that's what it is basically taking care of their instructional needs.
Right, okay.
So SOMER students who are going to BOCES
Yes.
to have this experience
Yes.
are going to have better equipment and better technology to be able
Yes.
to learn the skills that they need.
Yep.
Thank you.
Exactly.
And although we just approved the $10 million on their proposed budget, Somer's share, if I'm reading this correctly, is only, what, 573,000?
Or you want to
Maybe I went back one,
Yeah.
but probably to clarify.
divided by
the
further.
administrative budget
Yeah.
piece. So I'll let Chris speak to this even more directly, but that's the administrative piece that runs the administrative entire BOCES program. You want H there? Is that the one you're?
Okay, when we just talked about 10 million,
Yes.
that's not Somer's writing a check of 10 million, is it?
No.
Right, so what is that number? is what I
That
just
number
wanted-
that you just quoted, the
It's
573?
cumulative.
573 is
That's
that,
our,
yes.
that's our share of
That's
it.
our share, perfect.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's probably, I just want to clarify for myself and for everybody else that 10 million is not what
No,
we're
yeah.
in.
Not what we put in. Yeah, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, and then there's the election to the BOCES board. BOCES has a Board of Education, just as Somers has a Board of Education. Be it resolved that 2 individuals listed below have been nominated as candidate to the BOCES board to fill 2 vacancies for the term of July 1st, 2022 through July 30th, 2025. Somers Central School District hereby approves the following 2 candidates to fill the 2 vacancies: Tina McKay from Putnam Valley and Frank Schnecker from Ossining.
So moved.
Second.
I don't see Joe's name on there, so.
Yet.
No, my name is not. You are correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay. Now we are moving on to policies. We have policies for second reading and adoption tonight. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Ed of the Somers Central School District does hereby accept the following policies for a second reading and adoption. These are regarding school-sponsored student expression, student fundraising activities, student contests, and intramural programs.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay. And then we have some policies for first reading. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education of the Somers Central School District does hereby accept the following policy for first reading: 5660, student gifts and solicitations.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments from the policy committee? Any questions on this one?
Pretty simple ones, these.
Yeah, it seems pretty
No,
different.
this aligned, I think, better to the existing process.
Student education
And so
experience,
it made it a lot clearer, and
Okay, yeah, it looked.
that was
it
really what
looked-
the discussion was.
Been modernized, I would say.
Yeah.
Modernized,
What's
yes.
the definition of an
Yes.
elaborate gift? That's what I mean.
It was dinner when I was a kid, but
I'll take elaborate gifts. It's fine.
It was, yeah, good changes. So thank you to the policy committee for your work on this. These
Thanks to
sentences
Nancy.
made sense, and to Nancy, yep.
Yeah.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, and then we have a couple policies for suspension. Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Ed hereby accepts the following policies for suspension. 5680, student fees, fines, and charges, and 5800, student awards and scholarships.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion about why these are being removed? Any comments? I think they were outdated policies.
From 1993.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
I think they're,
And based on NISBA.
it's covered
deemed
elsewhere.
non-essential, they're elsewhere in the policies. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay. All right, and now we are up to general public comment. And I don't believe we have any public comment tonight. So we will move on to board member comments. Anybody have anything tonight?
Well, I'll make a public comment. First of all, I thank the board members, your kind encouragement for my recovery, and I don't think I expected this, but it was a surprise. And when I was sort of taken to the hospital, I still felt it was something that it may be just minor thing. But when I got to the hospital, the doctor just shoveled a few papers on, to me, say, sign this. My wife was parking at that point, so she couldn't even get to sign the papers. He said, you can't wait. So I trusted him, signed all the papers. In 1 hour, I got my new life. With new life, I tell you, you have some new perspective. I'm type of person try to usually drive myself, schedules and so on. The first thing I hated was that I missed tax payment. I had scheduled that week to finish my tax preparation, but with this hospitalization, I had to fill this 86 to get a 3 months. But then, after I got the 3 months, I felt so relieved. I look at all the other people, emails back and forth, if I'm working on my taxes. So that week, it was my, pure relaxing time, nothing to do. But old habit doesn't sort of die. I always publish a new book, try to do it before my birthday. And again, this year I missed it. But when I came back, I tried, and I just finished sort of yesterday, and today I announced to publish my book. So I'm happy. Okay, again, I'm saying all of this is because I think not that many people get a chance to have a new life. A new life is, certainly worthwhile treasuring. And this brings to my thoughts. I put my name into running the board again. That's way before my sort of this little accident. Now I should think about it, but as I was reading and thinking, one news came along and I forwarded to everybody was this little video that went viral over the whole country about the school in Atlanta. A bunch of kids made a video showing how their school, was horribly sort of deteriorated in a condition, classrooms, bathrooms, dining place, and so on. It was so horrible. I couldn't believe such a school district exists in the United States. and what those school board members are doing. They ought to be all, put in front of a firing squad or something. It's terrible, because this kid recorder say, here, we eat lunch here, we can smell the human waste coming from the ground. Okay, going to the bathroom, 4 stalls, 3 don't have locks, and the door is hanging by 1 nail. So I told myself, I've decided I'm not going to pull out, so I am going to remain as a candidate. Okay, thank you. That's all my comments.
If it is, just don't try to repair anything in the bathroom.
We're not allowed to probably use the school bathroom.
He would try.
This year we're breaking a bit of a psychological barrier with our budget. It's $100 million. And some people might say, why are we spending so much? But I think the administration, and hopefully we as a board, have been able to justify that to the community. I think that we're providing more programs for our students, a better quality of education. We're keeping our physical plant up, and it's very important to realize where your tax dollars go. And quite frankly, I think you're getting a lot for your money. So I hope the community continues to support the budget this year.
Here. Anybody else? Any other comments? Okay.
Well,
and
no, I'll echo what Joe was just saying. Definitely, I mean, put it on your calendar, though. May 17th, please. I know it's been said many times. It'll be published many times. But getting out and voting is really important. We have historically the percentage of voters in town who get out and vote for our school budget has been very low. Just don't take things for granted, and it's the support of the community that is a real, along with the planning, all the hard work and thoughtful budgets that are presented and what that money actually does. But it still comes from the support of the community, so it's really important to get out and vote, to learn, ask questions if you have any more. This has been a long process, putting this budget that we put together. It's not something that just came up now. It's been going on, and every year it's a long process. But it's never too late to ask questions if you have them. And then May 17th, please come on out and vote. Yeah, I'm running again. I do want to continue to serve on the board and help the vision of the district with getting our kids. It's about having our kids be ready for their futures in this new and ever-changing world. And I think a lot of the programs that we have in place, the ones that are in progress, because none of these programs that the district implements happen just on a whim. These are 3, 4, 5-year processes of investigation, of learning about what the right thing to do is based on actual research and actual studies. And if you ever have questions about them, I know the learning office. I know Dr. Blanche. They're always happy to have you come in, and they'll show you exactly what that process is. And it's pretty enlightening. That's a special thing on the board that we get to glean a little bit more from, seeing what they go through, and makes me very proud of our district. So I definitely want to continue and keep that rolling forward. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, it's interesting to think, Ife, like as you're telling the story of another school district and the struggles that they're having upkeeping their physical plant, and one thing I very much appreciate serving on our board and being part of our community is the resources that we have in the town of Somers. There are people that serve on school boards that have a lot less to work with and some really, really huge challenges in terms of providing what their students need. If you don't have the money, you don't have the money. So we are very fortunate in Somers to have a community that is able to support the taxes, and foot the bill to have this school district that has so many resources to give our students that education they need to be prepared to be successful and global citizens, and enriched in so many ways with strong athletics and strong arts and science and languages and the whole gamut, to have it so well-rounded so that we can try to meet the needs of each of our students, preparing them to go into the world. So huge gratitude for the community, which has consistently, passed a budget and supported our students every year that I've lived here. And it's part of what's made living in Somers and serving on this school board, be a great place to be and an honor. And we appreciate that you entrust the school district with the funds and the education of our children. And I invite community members to come out and see what our students are doing. Sarah had mentioned earlier the Somers Central School District Art Show is this Thursday night at 7 o'clock at the high school. And that's open to the community, correct? And it's an incredible evening. I absolutely love going and walking up and down the hallways and seeing the work of our students from kindergarten through the seniors that have done amazing professional type pieces that they have to share. So I encourage anybody to come and see these products of our art programs. Keep an eye on the school calendar, or or the Facebook page for the musical productions as they come through, and sporting events, and community's welcome to come and watch the games. And there's lots of ways to see what our students are doing and how they're being prepared, and where the money in our budget is going to. So I just encourage that, and it's great that we have 4 candidates running for 3 positions, that we have that interest in people wanting to serve on our board. So since there are choices, I encourage everybody to use this next month to get familiar with the candidates, ask them questions. I think, there should be ways that you can find to contact each candidate, ask them if you have questions, and watch for more information so that you can make an informed decision on who will be serving on the board next year. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Eddie. I'll go ahead and just, before the break, our learning office hosted a Touchscreen University Family Focus, or a tough evening, and not TOUGH, but, and so it was actually really powerful to see our faculty together, K through 12, and the curriculum and conversations is basically what it was. So folks were interested in, the world language piece. We had members here. Our math team was here. Our elementary folks were here. So it gave a chance for folks to just kind of come and see what kind of questions they had. The energy, I would say, in the room was really great from our faculty. Proud to share about what they're doing to help improvement in the classrooms be even better. And then also really appreciative for the community who was able to come out that evening. So as the learning office prepares and thinks about next year, that model, that structure is where we see those nights being. And coming in, here's the topic, and come and talk. And we're just kind of Q&A, and we'll get the different audience members there from the district perspective, and then whichever communities would like to come. The K through 12 helped a lot as well, too, just from a faculty perspective, having the K through 12 thread there at times when it was needed. And then also from the parents could see, oh, my child's in this grade level. They're heading to the next school. I want to talk to the next school, somebody from the next school. I'm not there yet, but nice chance to do that. So that model is something we're going to go ahead and work with Claire and with Kevin to go ahead and continue to offer that kind of university focus, and just, again, asking folks to come and show up and have conversation. So it was a great evening. The other piece I would say, too, and I think you hit on this, and kind of our educational portfolio, no Bitcoins again in there and things like that, but having the community come and see their investment in the educational portfolio here. So we're very much excited about getting back to having more of that opportunity, have our community members be here. One of the large ones we have is our Lions Invitational that we have on May 7th and 8th that weekend. We do get many community members come out and see the hundreds of track athletes across the area that come and be a part of that. So we're back on and able to do that this spring. Like you had mentioned before, with this Thursday with the art night, again, coming out for those pieces. So more and more we're able to do that, get ourselves those systems back online. it's good energy for our kids to see. It's good for them to see the partnership we have in the community, and certainly as a district, we always benefit and learn something from those experiences. So we're very much looking forward to getting those pieces all back online as we head through the spring here. So, and then I would just say, as you said before, I appreciate again Sarah helping us understand again the things that are coming back online, like the field trips and things like that for their kids. You just can't replace those, and so it's just a really great piece. And now, as we hopefully get our board back to, we're hoping later in this spring, we'll do a building tour of the physical plant of some of the, the boilers and some of those kind of things, but it's pretty good. So, but old and new, and
Perks of being on the board, huh?
What's that? Perks of the board. Yeah, I like it. Get your hard hat. And so now that's coming back online. So then when we get the board walkabout in the fall, we can start, hitting some classrooms and visiting. Hey, we've talked about this program or that experience of the middle years program at the middle school campus. Well, let's go see what the kids are saying and talking about. And so that kind of direct, kind of being there is something we're very much looking forward to getting back in the fall with that. So we'll start with, with the hard visit of just some of the stuff. Again, we've got a multi-million-dollar project coming on board with the energy performance contract. So, to see what was and what's going to be, I think will be definitely a very good piece. But liking to get back to those systems so we can rely upon our relationships with each other here at the board table and with our faculty and our staff and our kids and our communities. So thanks again.
Great. You reminded me one of the things I had wanted to say, thank you, appreciation to the Learning Office, Claire and Kevin, and all the teachers that had come out for that Tusker University. I was able to go and attend it, sort of a wrapping up, because my own kid's a senior, but I was interested. It was great because there have been questions and inquiry from members of the community that want to know more about the curriculum. And so to the time that went into planning that, soliciting from members of the community, what do you want to know more about? And then a bunch of teachers were there. So there was a kind of a presentation and dialogue about the World Language Program and the decisions that are being made about that, so you could understand the process. But also then teachers from every discipline that were available around the perimeter of the room for you to just go and talk and have discussions, whether you wanted to hear about IB or the art program or Primrose, that was there. So people that, anybody that's interested in that curriculum, keep an eye out for these Tusker universities when you hear them offered, because they're a great interactive experience. Thanks for all the extra effort and time that went into that. All right, and on that note, if there's no other comments, be it resolved that this regular meeting of the Board of Education be adjourned.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained.